We're going to try and do something. That was the message sent by some very American heroes with names like Sandra Bradshaw, Jeremy Glick, Mark Bingham, Todd Beamer, and Thomas Bennett. They found themselves aboard the hijacked Flight 93 that went down in Somerset County, Pennsylvania on September 11th, 2001. They witnessed the brutality on board and somehow summoned the strength to warn us and take action. United they stood and likely saved our world from an even darker day of perhaps even more unthinkable horror. Now, since that day, millions of us everywhere, of all ages, races, creeds, have asked ourselves, what are we to do? In their heroic, undying spirit, we all feel the need to do something, however small, symbolic, to honor these remarkable heroes among us, those who have fallen and those still standing, united. Those of us here tonight are not heroes. We are not healers nor protectors of this great nation. We are merely artists and entertainers, here to raise spirits, and we hope a great deal of money. We appear tonight as a simple show of unity to honor the real heroes and to do whatever we can to ensure that all their families are supported by our larger American family. This is a moment to pause and reflect, to heal, and to rededicate ourselves to the American spirit of one nation indivisible.
Officer John Perry of the 40th Precinct in the Bronx went to police headquarters the morning of September 11th to file his retirement papers. When he heard the explosion at the World Trade Center, he raced to the site. John Perry never returned. I don't think anyone would have blamed him if he had decided to stay behind that day, but he was a New York City policeman. He knew what he had to do, and he did it one last time. All right, now it's our turn to help. Thanks to the generosity of Capital One, we have a phone bank here. We wanted to show you a few of our friends that just showed up to answer the phones, take pledges. And all around the country, thousands of volunteers at phone banks are ready to take your calls. All calls made before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow will go to the September 11th Telethon Fund. 100% of the contributions will be used to benefit the victims and their families. That's very important, 100% of it. Now, the money that is raised will be administered by the United Way under the guidance of a special committee to determine how the funds can best be used. Please call 1-866-2-UNITE. Now, that's 1-866-868-6483. The lines are open.
What happened. I was scared because the World Trade Center was blown up and my dad was 5 miles away from the World Trade Center.
They think Muslims are terrorists because they're blaming us to do it, but Muslims aren't terrorists.
I don't like what's going on these days. There's a lot of people that got hurt and killed. I'm worried about going to school. And the mosques, I'm afraid they're going to bomb it up.
You're walking down the street, you think, oh God, someone could come behind me and, attack us. And you really don't want to feel that right now.
They keep on saying you did it. To me. You're people who did it.
I want this world to change back into a normal place.
What would that be like?
Peaceful, and we could play together and have fun and laugh together.
Heroes come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and religions. This man might be the most famous person in the world. He's one of the greatest heroes of our time, and he is a Muslim. It was hate, not religion, that motivated the horrible acts of September 11th. And in the wake of these events, nothing could be more un-American than to respond to mindless hatred with blind vengeance. My friend and I want you to remember that, and that we are strongest when we stand together. Champ?
I'm here because of a terrible thing that happened the other day. I'm a Muslim. I've been a Muslim for 20 years. And I'm against killing, violence, and all Muslims are against it. I think that people should know the real truth about Islam. You know me, I'm a boxer. I'm called the greatest of all time. People recognize me for being a boxer and a man of truth. And I wouldn't be here representing Islam if it was really like the terrorists make it look. I think that all the people should know the truth and come to recognize the truth, because Islam is peace. It's against killing, murder, and the terrorists and the people doing that in the name of Islam are wrong. And if I had a chance, I'd do something about it. Thank you.
In times like these, we can find comfort and inspiration in the words of past American heroes, especially somebody like President John F. Kennedy, who gave his life in service to this country. In Profiles in Courage, President Kennedy wrote, "A man does what he must, in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles and dangers and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality." And in his inaugural address, President Kennedy declared, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty." That is the challenge President Kennedy put before us 40 years ago. And now, confronted by evil, we must rise to the occasion. Please do your part.
See it. Churchill taught us that courage is the first of human qualities, the quality which guarantees all others. Last Tuesday morning, the courage of John Sequeira and Mike Benfonte guaranteed life itself for one woman trapped inside the trade towers. John and Mike were working on the 81st floor when they felt the collision and saw the walls buckle. Mike led co-workers to the stairway to start the long descent to safety. 13 floors later, they came upon a woman in a wheelchair, unable to save herself. And so they summoned, in John's words, a courage they didn't know they had. For more than an hour, they carried that woman down 68 flights of stairs without even knowing her name. To risk your life for a total stranger in need is not only courageous, but divine. Because in the face of that kind of selflessness, we can no longer call each other strangers. That is brotherhood. That is America. We need your help. Please call 1-866-2-UNITE.
chance. If I hesitate, you think
The teachers at PS 234 worked in the shadows of the World Trade Center. When the first explosion hit, they moved quickly to save the children in their care. They held their hands, carried them on their shoulders, leading them through the flying debris and ash of the crowded cities to another school where they would be safe. But first grade teacher Shannon Greenfield stayed behind with her class of frightened 6-year-olds as parents came to pick them up. Tense minutes passed and one child remained. So Shannon grabbed that child and raced out the door through the streets to safety, just as the second tower came down. More than 8,000 students attended classes near the World Trade Center. In the face of danger, at a time of chaos and uncertainty, Shannon Greenfield and her colleagues gave their pupils a lesson in courage and kept them safe.
In 1993, when New York's World Trade Center came under terrorist attack for the first time, Rick Rescorla, a British-born American, was one of the last men out after assisting thousands of survivors to safety. Legend has it that he got the attention of the terrified crowd that day by dropping his trousers. On September 11th, Rick was working as Morgan Stanley security chief at the World Trade Center. He was last seen on the 10th floor, again ushering people to safety, even singing to them to ease the panic. Rick Rescorla's easy heroism was earned the hard way, as a soldier in the British Army, as a police officer in Rhodesia, as a platoon leader in the U.S. Army in Vietnam, where he won the Silver Star for bravery. It's been said that courage is not freedom from fear, it's being afraid and still going on. The courage to look fear in the face, to overcome it. And once you've done that, you can do it again and again and again. Rick Rescorla was a living embodiment of that statement. Please help. The line and the numbers are flashing at the bottom of the screen. Thank you.
so glad you're here.
It was about 8:45 in the morning when police officer Jim Leahy and his partner saw a plane flying low toward the World Trade Center. 20 minutes later, Leahy was carrying oxygen tanks to the 27th floor of Tower 1.
It was near 9:35 when Officer Leahy called his wife Marcella, leaving a message that he was okay and he was helping people out of the building. 15 minutes later, Tower 2 collapsed.
It was just past 10 when Officer Leahy came over the police radio to say that he and his people were attempting to leave the building. It was the last anyone has heard from him.
Officer Leahy and his wife have 3 children, and New York has hundreds more like him, cops who are willing to sacrifice their lives in an instant for people they do not know.
Men and women whose physical courage has inspired a nation and whose nobility in the face of danger has given New York City a new reason to be proud.
These remarkable words come to us from the diary of Anne Frank, a young woman trapped in a moment of ultimate terror. In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. In the midst of these often dark and troubling days, we remain heartened by the enduring goodness of the American people.
We call upon your goodness once again tonight. If you can give anything at all, please give to the September 11th Telethon Fund. Rest assured, 100% of the contributions will be administered by the United Way under the guidance of a special committee that will help to determine how the funds can best be used. The lines are open. 1-866-868-6483. Thank you.
I made a promise to myself.
Can we find some firemen up there?
The last few days have shattered a lot of myths, but there's one that still holds true. New York is the city that never sleeps. And since September 11th, for the people working to rescue their fellow New Yorkers, there's been neither the time nor the desire for sleep.
Some may have imagined that New York City was a town of strangers, but there are no strangers here now. This is what we have seen in our city. On every street corner, in every neighborhood, people are helping one another. For while towers have fallen, this city has risen up. In the last few days, we've all seen the best of New York. Its courageous and undaunted firefighters, police, and Port Authority workers, its everyday heroes, and its mighty, unstoppable heart. We need you now. It's that simple.
Please call 1-866-868-6483.
One, two.
Right, exactly. Well, it's you know, I just talking to you, but you know what you do? Look to see. I see that there's the website there.
The Reverend Michael Judge, a Roman Catholic priest, and a chaplain of the New York City Fire Department heard the news early and rushed from his room in the St. Francis of Assisi Friary. He arrived at Ground Zero before the towers fell. As fires raged around him, he comforted his firefighters. While they tried to save lives, he tried to save souls. At one point, He was kneeling, administering the last rites of the church to a dying fireman when he took off his helmet to lean closer. He knew without a helmet he would be in danger, but it wasn't his job to be safe. The men of Engine 1, Ladder 24, whose firehouse was across the street from Father Mike's friary, picked up his body and carried him from the rubble. They took him to St. Peter's Church and laid him at the altar, tenderly. And then they went back to Ground Zero and did their work. Because that's what firefighters do. In Father Duffy's eulogy for Father Mike, he said this: "Today, we bury his body, but not his spirit. We bury his hands, but not his good works. We bury his heart, but not his love."
Abe Zelmanowitz, 55 years old, an Orthodox Jew, had a friend named Edward V.A., 42 years old, a Christian, and a quadriplegic. They worked together on the 27th floor of the Trade Center's North Tower. And as the smoke began to fill their offices last Tuesday morning, Ed, stuck in his wheelchair, told Abe to get out. Abe had plenty of time to do just that, but he refused to leave Ed's side. Instead, Abe told Ed's nurse to go and that he would stay and look after his friend. They called their families, Abe dialing and holding up the receiver to Ed's ear for him. They each told their families they were okay. And then the building fell. Abe and Ed were lost together that morning, but they taught all of us the meaning of friendship and selflessness. Please call. The lines are open. 1-866-868-6483.
So many around the world have shared in America's loss, including hundreds of citizens from Great Britain, Germany, India, Canada, Japan, and many others. Tonight, we declare that they will always be our brothers and sisters, just like all the people who walk America's streets. And in our pain and anguish, we must remember that America's greatest enemy is hatred itself. Judging people by the way they look, that's not America. And so we come together, joined by people in more than 62 countries who are watching this show. You can take part in this global effort by logging on to www.tributetoheroes.org. By contributing now, you honor the spirit of America that has brought so many cultures to these shores and reaffirm our nation's commitment and tolerance goes hand in hand with freedom.
Police Captain Timothy Pearson was helping people escape from the first tower when Tower 2 came crashing down. The force of the collapse covered him with debris, and he lay there thinking, I'm going to die.
Then a flashlight appeared nearby.
Then a hand extended itself out of the haze to help him up. "Grab on. Grab on," a voice said, and he reached out blindly and was lifted up.
Hearing someone behind him, he reached out his other hand and felt someone take hold. Soon there was a human chain groping its way through the wreckage, following the beam of that single flashlight.
When at last he emerged into the open, Timothy tried to thank whomever it was who had saved him, but the person was gone. Timothy never, ever saw a face, but he will always remember the one he has come to think of as his light angel.
I'd like to dedicate this song to one of the victims of last Tuesday's appalling tragedy. A good friend to my wife, to myself, Mr. Herman Sandler, a kind, generous man, who I would imagine died in much the same way as he lived his life, heroically helping other people. 1, 2, 3.
Were there heroes at the Pentagon on the morning of September 11th? An army of them. When Lieutenant Commander Dave Tarantino heard cries for help, the naval doctor crawled into an inferno of jet fuel and rubble. He squeezed himself through a 2-foot by 1-foot hole and saved a man who was pinned in his chair by a burning desk. Another hero, a young GI, found a young woman who'd gone into shock and was unable to move. He slung her over his shoulder and carried the woman to safety. They, and so many like them, lived the code of the day. Before we save ourselves, we save each other. 14 hours later, at 2:30 in the morning, a group of workers at the Pentagon hoisted the American flag. And as the stars and stripes flew over the crash site, everyone there, medics, police, federal agents, firefighters, and rescue personnel, burst into applause. Our flag was still there. Now it is up to all of us. 100% of your contributions to the September 11th Telethon Fund will go to support needed services for victims and their families. Life is so precious. Please, please, let's love one another. Live each day. Reach out to each other. Be kind to each other. Peace be with you. God is great.
Tim Brown has never flinched when called to do dangerous work. He's a firefighter. But on September 11th, he began a job that not only tested his courage, but the very core of his soul. Tim's job? To dig through the rubble that was once the World Trade Center. To find his fellow firefighters, his brave comrades, his friends, beneath the avalanche of debris. Tim is still digging because he knows his friends, now lost, would have dug just as hard to set him free. Tim is still out there digging because heroes don't give up. Tim Brown is a hero. And now is the time for all of us to take action and do our part. Please call. The lines are open. 1-866-868-6483.
when you're weary.
"60 years ago, Franklin Delano Roosevelt spoke these words. We look forward to a world founded upon 4 essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way, everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world."
It was the 21st century's day of infamy. It was a day that will live in the annals of courage and patriotism. Tonight we've paid tribute to those who were lost and those who survived the fire and the fate that rained down upon them, and the heroes at Ground Zero who in life and death were an indelible badge of honor. We celebrate not only them, but all our fellow Americans. For the intended victims of this attack were not just on the planes and at the Pentagon and the World Trade Center. They were wherever else they rode in the sky. The targets were not just the symbols of America, but they were the spirit of America. And the intended victims were all 300 million of us. The terrorists foresaw a nation fearful, doubtful, ready to retreat. Oh, they left us wounded, but renewed in strength, and we'll stand and we will not yield. The terrorists who wanted 300 million victims instead are going to get 300 million heroes. 300 million Americans with broken hearts, unbreakable hopes for our country and our future. In the conflict that's come upon us, we're determined, as our parents and our grandparents were before us, to win through the ultimate triumph. So help us God. There's a song that celebrates America and beckons us to what we can become. America, America, God shed his grace on thee and crowned thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.